So, this is the last episode of Season 2 of Free Speech, the Natural United podcast, where we go over topics that are very important and typically pertain to Earth, space, and the environment. And today we're going to end this season on a topic that will affect all of us, but it's not necessarily a localized problem. It's happening in the places that it is, but it might not be something that you see every day. It might not be something that you know is going on. And everyone has heard of it to some extent, but the severity of how much of an issue this is for the world is beyond comprehension, really. So, this episode, as you can tell from the title, is deforestation. And so, the definition of deforestation is this: conversion of land from forest to arable land, pasture, urban use, logging, and wasteland. And this is something that we need in order to industrialize our countries. We need trees, we need our natural resources, and we need land. So I completely understand how this could come about, but the effect of what we are doing to the land is going to change the lives of future generations for a very long time, and we need to revert this trend to some extent. At the end of the video, I will express some of my personal ideas on what we can do to combat what is going on with this issue. So, just a bit of basic information about deforestation that's kind of essential to understand before getting into it is that even now, forests still cover 30% of Earth's land, which is fantastic. The difficulty with that is that over 3 trillion trees have been cut down in the industrialization of humanity, in the creation of our communities, and this is going to cause massive problems for future generations of people who live here. So we are deforesting at a rate faster than an acre per second, which means that 200 square miles of forest are gone off the face of the planet every single day. That's 200 square miles on a daily basis. So we're talking about 20 football fields per minute being cleared. And so I live in the United States, and the United States is a massive, massive, massive contributor to the issue. Even though in America we are about 5% of the global population, we consume 30% of the world's paper. And that is staggering and also very ridiculous. If you think about that, we only have 1 in 20 people, but nearly 1 in 3 of the world's paper goes to Americans. There's clearly a discrepancy here. And so I couldn't even bring up this topic. I couldn't even have a conversation about this issue without bringing up the Amazon rainforest, because the Amazon rainforest, and this is something that I didn't really know, I always knew it was a lot, but the Amazon rainforest produces 20% of Earth's oxygen. 20%. So, well, where do we go from there? And there is so much space in the Amazon rainforest. We're cutting it very quickly, but even so, it's larger than all but Russia, Canada, China, the US, Brazil, and Australia. Those are the only countries that are larger than the Amazon rainforest. It could be its own country with how large it is, and it would be one of the largest countries in the world if that were the case. And so Amazon is in Brazil, Bolivia, Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, Venezuela, Guinea, and Suriname, and French Guinea. So the Amazon River stretches 4,250 miles through the Amazon, and it basically allows all of the life in that region to prosper. When we look at the Amazon, it is the mecca of Earth when it comes to life. Without it, our lives would be very different than they are today, and that's why it's such an issue that they're being cut down at the rate that they are. And on top of that, you have 500 Amerindian tribes who live in the Amazon rainforest, 50 of which have never even had contact with the outside world. But I have to imagine that they can notice the environmental implications of the actions that have been taken by the rest of humanity in different areas of the world. So there are 50 tribes completely removed from the rest of the world, and their livelihood is being completely thrown away at the expense of products. And so I understand people need products to live, but we're going to have to completely restructure the way that we live if we hope to continue to live in a way that is sustainable, that we could do for thousands, tens of thousands, hopefully millions of years. So The Amazon is vital, especially because of the amount of different species that live there. Inhabiting the Amazon is 40,000 different plants, 1,300 different birds, 3,000 types of fish, 430 mammals, and this is the most shocking to me. 2.5 million different insects live within the Amazon rainforest. And so the Amazon is very fundamental to the prevention of climate change because it soaks up so much carbon dioxide created by humanity and originally so much carbon dioxide created by the rest of the ecosystems before humans were around. And it is probably the most fundamental tool in us preventing climate change, yet at the same time, 20,000 square miles every single year are going away, and it's a direct result of deforestation. So the average American life is 79 years long, and within that time, 75% of the rainforests in the Amazon will be depleted if we continue at this 20,000 square mile per year rate. And it is believed that in shortly after 100 years, if we continue at this rate, that the Amazon will be completely gone. Here we have something creating 20% of Earth's oxygen, and we are looking to cut as much of it down as possible for the production of farms and other land uses for humans. And so I am a firm believer that we should protect every square inch of the Amazon and live elsewhere because I find it to be incredibly vital to everyday life, even for people who don't live in South America. This affects people all over the world. And so deforestation, along with human actions, are causing the species of the world to become extinct at a rate that is 1,000 to 10,000 times the natural rate since humans have been introduced to the environment. And you could imagine that this has a very, very negative effect on the daily life of people. A lot of the cures for our diseases that we're finding are coming from species who are slowly becoming extinct. And that is absolutely terrifying because there might be solutions to major human problems that we have, and we are not getting to figure those solutions out simply because our way of life, it doesn't necessarily commingle with other forms of life on Earth. So we've already lost half of our tropical forests due to deforestation, and I think that it's about time that we revert this trend. I think that Earth would be a lot more beautiful if we maintained all of the natural ecosystems that were there when we were originally born, because if you think of it, that is what we are indoctrinated into. That is how we came to life. And so I think that we should do everything that we possibly can to preserve all the natural processes of life that we possibly can. I understand that evolution is natural, that things change, but I also think that the rate at which we are changing our environment is so unnatural that the consequences will be very dire, and that is the purpose of why I created this video. A bit earlier in this video, I mentioned I live in America, and we use a substantial amount of the world's paper. And so something that's necessary to know is that the industrialized nations of the world are using 12 times as much wood resources as the unindustrialized areas of the world. And so I think that we're going to see 5 major problems come about as a result of deforestation. The first one, soil erosion. And I mean, the implications of this, what will happen as a result of soil erosion across the world, is impossible to tell. But we know that it affects our plants. We know that the chemicals that we are using to generate all of the plants that we eat, they are running off into the water. And so when you combat that with soil erosion as a result of deforestation, trees sit in the mud and they hold things in. They allow Earth to absorb different things that we're doing. But when those trees aren't there, when we practice deforestation, that completely changes. Another one being floods, and this has a direct effect on humanity. I mean, you think about when a tsunami happens, how many houses are destroyed. There are going to be more and more issues like that because, like I said, trees absorb water, and not only that, they create a natural barrier in the dirt that helps us to stop soil from eroding, and beyond that, stop chemicals from spreading downhill. And then wildlife extinction, I brought this up a bit earlier, but I do think that deforestation is going to cause a ridiculous number of animals and plants to go extinct. And that is terrifying, especially given how diversity has proven to humans as a very, very valuable natural remedy. And then increases in global warming. This is very obvious. I mean, obviously, greenhouse gases are contributing to why our planet is getting hotter on top of the recent ice age that we had. So when we think about how global warming is going to be affected, we've cut down 3 trillion trees. Well, what do you think that will do to the carbon that is in the air? And then lastly, climate imbalance. So the trees have been in these places. They're the oldest living organism that is on Earth. Think of how much longer they have been there than we have. And all of those environments are built around those trees being there. It is why animals will go extinct. It is why the soil will be eroded. And so our climate is going to vastly change as a result of deforestation. And so we know that tropical rainforests, they cover only 6 to 7% of Earth's surface, meaning a quarter of the current forests are tropical, yet at the same time, it contains over half the world's plant and animal species. And I think that having more diverse plants and animals on Earth is beneficial for humans, but we're heading in the exact opposite direction. So I always dislike when people make these doomsday videos and they don't really bring any of their own solutions to the table, or at least ideas that they have that could be implemented, that could improve the situation. And here are 3 things that I think humanity could do that could really, really help us in the long run. The first one is resource sustainability. And what I mean by this is that the amount of resources that Earth naturally creates in a year is the amount of resources that we should use in a year. And if we continue to do this, we could maintain our natural rate for every chemical that we use to make our products. Now, this might mean we'll have to fundamentally change the way that we make our products. It might mean we'll have to substitute different chemicals in certain things that we're creating. But at the end of the day, it'll make it so that we know that we'll be able to continue our practices for a very long time. And then second, vertical farming. This is something I wrote about in my book that will be coming out in 2 months. And I think it is a revolutionary idea, and I'm surprised that it's not been implemented in more places. But basically what it is farms that are stacked on top of each other, and what that allows is, obviously you're going to be using less space, but on top of that, every square inch of space is used. But when you have multiple layers, you could also build underground. It allows you for a lot of opportunity to plant more than you'd be able to. And I think that that is something that we'll see implemented within the next couple decades that will really help humanity cut back on our influence of the world in the negative aspects that we've had on our environment. And then third, and this is something that's very far-reaching and looking super far into the future, but I think space exploration is going to be very necessary for humanity. I think we're going to need to get chemicals and different resources from the outside. I think we're very limited all being on this planet with having billions and billions and billions of humans. We all use the same resources. And so if we are to look to space, something that seems almost infinite to us given our time in history, that will be a very, very interesting solution for humanity to look into, and something that I believe we should be putting our resources to. But beyond that, I do want to say we have been planting trees in Ohio. I want to continue doing stuff like that all over the world. If you want to help me plant trees, please reach out to me on Instagram. My handle is @PatrickStepanek. And beyond that, thank you to everyone who tuned in to Season 2. I'm so grateful. And as I'm publishing this, it's ironic because Season 2 has not reached a very substantial number of people. But to the people who I've talked to that have listened to this, I'm so grateful that each of you have been able to tune in and for the suggestions that I've had for different videos. But I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep making this podcast. I'm going to keep talking about environmental issues. I'm going to keep trying to learn about the different things that I can influence, maybe in my local environment and hopefully all across America and the rest of the world. So we are going to begin Season 3 on January 20th. So if you guys have any ideas that you would like for me to include in future videos, please let me know. Beyond that, if you want to submit questions, something that I could possibly bring up in the video, feel free to reach out to Natural United, whether it be on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. We have a LinkedIn too. I am beyond grateful for what this community has grown to become. When I started Season 1, I was still in college and I wanted to experiment with creating videos, and I'm going to work to make them better. I'd like to get the audio better. I'd like to get the video better. But beyond that, I'd like to make the content better simply by reading as much as I possibly can. So thank you for everyone who's tuned in. And I can promise you that Season 3 of Free Speech is going to be even more exciting than the past 2 that we've had. And beyond that, I'm going to be bringing on some very, very interesting guests in 2020, and I'm excited for you guys to see it. Have an amazing day, and thank you so much for all being a part of this community of people who want to improve the planet.